Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of you and peace out to the rest of you. Black Heart is Hunter, Black in again, asking you to hit that share button. If you hit like or subscribe, thank you. But the share button is important because the message is more important than the messenger. I want to start off by thanking Man of Tomorrow because my theory has been that the women started off doing what they're doing unconsciously. And then they become aware of it and they double down on it when they're aware of it, instead of saying, whoa, this is kind of stupid and kind of jacked up. Now what I want to say is this. What I want to tell you at this point is that after listening to Man of Tomorrow, I am convinced that while they may still start off doing it subconsciously, they are aware of it at a much younger age than what I would have previously guessed. And they may be even starting their lives off aware of this because they have learned it from their aunts, mothers, grandmothers, older sisters, older cousins, because they talk about this. And I put two and two together. Man of Tomorrow has seen that they know what the hell they're doing when they're adults. And Dennis Sperling has said that the women talk to each other and they even let the young girls stay with them while they're doing this inside the house, whereas the boys are sort of told to go out, fend for themselves for a little while. You know, when they're playing, they're not really allowed to spend much time with the elder men. There you go, right there. That right there tells me that I need to change my theory, my hypothesis. I now suspect that in actuality, the women are learning this from a young age. And while women do differ in their personalities and in their morality, the ones most likely to talk about what tricks to pull on men are the ones with the least morals and scruples, so they pass this on. And so consequently, when women start off this way, by the time they're in their teens, they're already thinking of with games. Okay, this guy's got the jawline, so you know I'm going to engage in a twin mating strategy. I want his kid, and I want that guy over there to raise them. So what I need to do is I need to get the one I want in the bed and make him spray the cervix, and then get the one I don't necessarily want, but whose resources I want to think those are his babies. Or better yet, feel like he has to take care of somebody else's babies, or he'll never get any. And MOT has pointed out the evidence that they know what they're doing. That right there, that gets me to thinking, you know what? It's a cultural thing. There may be a biological advantage if you can pull off something like that, but the expectation and demand that she's going to do it and get away with it is a Western cultural thing. I'm going to F Junebug. I'm going to F this idness because other people are afraid of him. And then the guys that seem intimidated by him are going to take care of his babies. And that's it. And there will be no other arrangement. And there's no way that I would actually have children for the man whose resources I want, because if he's able to get the resources, it's because he pussy anyway. Otherwise, why would Massa allow him to advance that much? I get it, but I don't forgive it. Thank you, Man of Tomorrow, for bringing that up and pointing that out. And I mean that from the bottom of my black heart. Now, this being said, last night I was on for a short time. I was in a chat room, but listening to a live stream. And the channel owner on whose channel was the live stream believes in self-improvement and pickup artistry, and that we need to have game, and that should be a necessity. And I'm going to tell y'all straight like this. I'm not going to ever promote this for guys, because charm is one thing, but there's a difference between charm and game, and I've always said it. My father's the one that showed me the difference, because my dad is not a deceptive person. If he deceives you, it's either because he's saving you from yourself, or he's protecting another person from your hostility, and that's war. Just out the bat, right off the bat, he's not the deceptive person. He's quiet. This being said, I learned this from him. He's a charmer, though. Always he a charmer. So, the two different things. I'm not against women wanting a man with charm as long as she brings the same thing, but the demand for game is a goddamn shame. And you know what? I guess if you're playing games on all the men in your life, you would demand they play the same thing. Anyway, that being said, something else at stake here. See, I was listening, I found out that apparently a man that's either SYSBM or IBMOR bought a woman a stove, and he said that he did it. From what they were saying, he said he did it. And the men on this live stream were saying, wait a minute, that's being red pill for Black American women and then being blue pill simps simply because a woman's got straighter hair and speaks Spanish and she's not American. That's very true. And while I do not advocate doing things like buying expensive $200 stoves for anybody, really, until you really know them and you're committed, and you're going to benefit from that stove along with her, I also must say this. You gentlemen on the panel made this mistake. You said that the justification for it was wrong. No. The justification for it was not a wrong statement. Even though I don't recommend doing it, it is true that if you do this for a woman in these areas, she's more likely to appreciate it. If you do it for a Western woman in the United States, a Bonquisha or a Sapphire, and she's nice to look at, she's not going to appreciate it. End of story. That's not going to happen. When have you ever seen a woman that was an 8, hell, a 7 for that matter, appreciate the guy that is willing to do something like that for her and actually break him off something in the bedroom because he did something like this for her? Now, I don't believe in cheapening sex to this sort of thing. As a Muslim, I'm not allowed to promote it. I'm talking from you all's standpoint. If this is okay for y'all, then why the hell does this not work for them? No, if this man did the same thing for somebody, I don't know, in Baltimore, for example, or hell, in Atlanta, I can speak for Atlanta for real, and she's nice to look at. Let's say she looked as good as that woman in the Dominican Republic, because we know cats ain't out there messing with the ugly ones. She looks that good, she's not going to think, she's not really going to appreciate it. She going to friend zone him. So when he says, look, I'm about to be back in town this next weekend, clear your schedule, I'm finna dig you out. How could you say that? You're supposed to be my brother. That's what he gets, and that's all he gets. If he sends a message to that lady in the DR, what's happening? I'm finna be in town for the next month. Clear your schedule. I'm gonna dig them guts out. She gonna be like, you sure are, Poppy, and I'm gonna cook you a good meal on that stove too. That's what's gonna happen. That's the difference. Even though I don't recommend, and even though he should not have done that, he's still going to get a bigger bang for his buck doing that over there than he ever would where you are in the States. I can tell you now, I know that. So, no. This is not equal. Don't sit up and say that it's necessarily unfair because he didn't act the exact same with one as he did with the other. I mean, the whole defining trait of our experiences with nice looking, I mean, just decently attractive, just cute enough Western women, white or black, has been that they don't treat us the same, and it's not even consistent with the differences in how we treat them. It's actually inversely proportional to how we treat them. We treat them better. They assume we're weak, low ranking, treat us worse. We treat them worse if we're nice to look at, and we treat them worse. That's what they are looking for, so then they treat us better. But if we're not that nice to look at and we treat them worse, then they hold that against us and tell us we should have treated them better. But if we do that, I've already told you just now what happens. It's a lose-lose scenario. Men that are SYSBM and IBMOR are usually one of 3 types. The first type is the guy that got mistreated by women he did not mistreat and who did take mistreatment from other men. In other words, the guys on whom these women took revenge for other men and how they were treated by other men. The second type is the guy that either mistreated her or not, but saw how she mistreated guys that didn't deserve it and said, man, to hell with this. Most of the men, though, are in the third category, which is some combination of the first two that I just mentioned. Most men have been both in their lives, at one at one point and the other at another, not necessarily mistreating women, but witnessing a guy get mistreated and sometimes being mistreated and seeing that these were not provoked. Actually, I take that back. Most of them simply know through indirect and direct experience that women are lying about what the hell they want in the first place, watching women say they want one thing and then pursuing another one after saying that they never pursue a man. That's really where most of us are. We simply see the game and said, to hell with that. Like I said in my last recording, that we see the real game behind the game and say, you know what, SYSBM or Ibmore. And no, the Dominican Republic is not a country full of a bunch of mixed white women or something like that. It's for all intents and purposes an African nation. I'm not speaking to their attitude about their African blood. I'm simply saying that genetically speaking, it's an African nation that speaks Spanish, just like Cape Verde is an African nation that speaks Portuguese. That's all. That being said, I'm not going to front. If I was single now and I was looking, I'd be looking for a wife as a Muslim. I would not be looking in the West because I already know from experience what they're going to do. And I also know from experience that me being in the gym and me being more alpha and me being more financially successful is not going to necessarily make it any easier, because then the time I have to spend to acquire these things is simply going to cause them to complain about that. The time I'm not able to spend with them. And what are they going to do? After I bring all this, they're going to cheat. And they may actually feel lonely when they do, but they're going to turn around and cheat under the same conditions. They're going to cheat with someone else under the same conditions in which they would not have cheated with me on another man like that. So in other words, if another man is taking care of him and she's nice to look at, she's not necessarily going to come to me and say, oh, what's happening? Now, it's happened before, but I mean, it's not going to be an all of the time thing. And if it is, I don't want that. And I'm not the only man to have to deal with this. So what I'm saying to you is that it is a very bad deal in the West, and it's time you guys just admit that normal, run-of-the-mill men, especially those with any kind of conscience, are only offered bad deals in that Western nation. And that you guys that were on the panel, not all of you, but, you know, especially the ones of you that really tout self-improvement and pick-up artistry and staying in the West to deal with that Sapphire and the Bon Qui and Boom Shika. Yeah, you guys need to understand that the deal you may not be offered now does not mean that this is all that is being offered to the other guys. I mean, it does mean that it's not all that's being offered. Yeah, see, that's all that's being offered to many of us. And it's not necessarily because we're so repulsive and below average and mediocre and pathetic and pitiful. No, it's because we're actually somewhere in the norm. We're actually in the middle. It's just that studies have shown that Western women don't rate guys like that. Western women pretty much go around convincing most normal guys that they're pathetic and average. So when these women are sitting up here complaining on these videos, white or black, about what they can't find in a man, we men have the decency to say, well, it's because the scenario is changing, the situation is changing, what you all want is changing, your behavior is changing, Me Too is changing the game, that's why you're stuck by yourself. And we don't necessarily say, well, it's because you're just an inferior woman. And yet when a man decides to get on camera and talk about how he's been lied to and deceived into becoming exactly whatever it is that women don't want, but they won't tell him necessarily what they want anyway, and then he has observed them pursuing what they actually do want after telling everybody that they never chase a man down. What is he told? Oh, well, your attitude is the damn problem, and you're just an inferior man, and maybe you need to spend more time going to the gym and being more alpha and changing your attitude, and all kinds of esoteric BS. At no point does anybody ever stop and say to him, it's because you were lied to from the very beginning, and that's not your fault. And you were expected to kind of read their minds, which is not fair. And you can't really be blamed for it. Now you have grown into exactly what they don't want between the sheets, because it was in their best interest to only have a few of those guys anyway, and to have most guys be like you, good for everything except between the sheets. So in other words, you were a victim. This is one thing that's not said to men, yet it's true. So I want to say this to you guys. You game promoters, pickup artists, not necessarily those who say that men should learn, not necessarily those who say that men should learn, but to those of you who want to act like it's men's fault what they don't know, and like these broads are just okay and normal in what they're doing when you know they're not, because they're lying. I'm talking to you cats. You don't come talking to us and telling us to quit crying, and you don't come talking tough to us about something that's not our fault. If we want that, shit, we can talk to the Klan. We could go bump into a police officer, attract his attention somehow, if we want to hear ignorant stuff like that. Blame for things that are not our fault and weren't under our control in the first place. No, you leave us the hell alone with that mess. Assalamu alaikum, blood. And you turn around and you go talk to those bonquishas and boomshikas and sapphires who've been sitting up here lying to us and even lying to you when you all were young about this stuff. And you say to them, look, you dumb bitch, stop crying about why you single and why you can't find anybody. When was the last time you actually sat up and told the men what it is that you want without making them guess, without lying to them? When was the last time, hell, you actually went up and approached the one that you wanted in front of others, independently of what your friends are going to say, without waiting to see how many others wanted him? When was the last time you did any of that? Go back to them and you say to them, look, you come at us with that feminism BS and you hypergamous, make up your goddamn mind. Those two are mutually exclusive. You go back and you talk that tough to them, not to us, because we men are not walking around here taking two things that are mutually exclusive and then demanding them of women. We might like them, but we don't demand them. We know if she's a hoe, she's a hoe. If she's a housewife, she's a housewife. We're the ones who say you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. Actually, it's not too much to expect that a woman could be a housewife, but still act like a hoe in the marital bedroom. That's not too much to expect, but we don't. We don't demand this. They're the ones that are sitting up and saying, well, I'm going to practice hypergamy and feminism. I mean, get the F out of here. You can't fit the guck out of here. You cannot pull those two off. They're the ones sitting up and saying, well, he has to have the energy of a 16-year-old, but he has to have the savings account of a 56-year-old. Which one is it? You go back to them and you talk tough to them and you tell them that what they're asking for is mutually exclusive. They're the ones sitting up saying he got to spend time with me, but he also has to be financially successful and he needs to take care of himself in the gym. Okay, being financially successful and being in the gym both take time. That man's barely got time to sleep, let alone spend with her. Go back and talk that tough stuff to them, not us. If we do go out to these other countries and buy them stoves and stuff like that, you ain't got nothing to say about it, nigga. Because you ain't never at any point going and talk tough to them and told them that they're fupping what they want, that they don't make no goddamn sense. And that how dare they sit up and lie to men about what they want in the first place. You are still trying to reverse pimp and tell us what we need to do to somehow impress who cannot be impressed in the first place. And then on top of that, you want us to pay you for it. At the very least, you want us to respect you for it. We're not supposed to respect hypocrites. We're not even supposed to respect stupidity, let alone hypocrisy. So either you're doing this knowing that it's hypocritical to say this sort of thing and combine these two messages together, or you're just entirely stupid. Now, which one of those two are we supposed to respect? An intentional malice or stupidity? Make up your minds, because I can't imagine what you're going to say about why we should respect that. Now, I'm not saying this with hatred, but I'm saying that you need to go back. And if you're wondering, if you're not sure whether I'm talking about you or not, probably I'm not. If you're wondering if you're one of them type of dudes, chances are you're not. But you probably you probably said something that would identify you as such in at least one of the videos. Now, this being said, even though I'm recording this without hatred, I still want you cats to take note. I'm not making threats. I know I'm angry. I raise my voice, but I'm not making threats or anything like that. I'm not putting my name and my face on here. I got family members whose privacy to protect, if not in addition to my own. So I'm not the one that talks junk, talk about what I'm going to do. I don't even hate you guys like that. I want you cats to realize that pickup artistry is something that they need to be learning if they're going to talk feminism. I want you to realize that if you really are pro-black, you're going to look for the best outcomes and the best options for black folks. And the best ways, Assalamu alaikum, gentlemen, and the best ways to make, best ways to turn out the good kids. And the other thing is, I want you to keep in mind, is that if you're going to talk about self-improvement, then you're talking about self-improvement. You're not necessarily talking about improving the options of those who don't deserve the improvement in the first place and who spit on the things that have already been done. That's what I want you to come to understand. You are not sitting up here giving people things that are going to help them in the long run. You do have one thing that you can say that is correct. If you're saying it now, if you're thinking it in your head, why don't you talk to our clients that come to us and pay us? Don't worry, that's next. I hope that what I've said won't be true one day in the future. In the meantime, I hope it benefits. Black Heart, sign of blackout. Assalamu alaikum and black male power just because they don't like it.